This poem is about the relationship native people have with their language in an environment where the cultural domination of the majority threatens to drown out centuries-old voices. It's called My Mother's Tongue. Chains of soap opera propaganda telling me that my mother's tongue is just a peg above slander. The language of my ancestors, now a mere dialect among bystanders. We fail to observe the perverse curse of condemned spoken verse, the language of unread books, old men's tongues and wives' tales. Even the speech of my outspoken dissent is of my old colonial masters, facilitators of human disaster, linguistic overlords waging tonal wars. I speak with their whip that keeps my mind in a grip. My words are like bars, keeping me from touching the stars. The revolution is nipped off, even before it's kicked off. The stories of old were like poetry for the soul, turning lead into gold. Now, I'm standing out in the cold, trying to pull a mountain through a hole. Translation, uncomfortably close to enslaved nation. Reverse lobotomy. As I begin to walk the path, numb fingers begin to grasp. I pick up a book and blow off the dust. The iron around my tongue begins to rust. It's with my colonized words I break the yoke, turning embers into flame with a pen stroke. Sine waves emanating from my brain, reconquering entomological domain, building an ancient thirst. I lust for this ancient verse that turns from barren to green, the field of my dreams. And I learn. The language I speak is not confined to my mouth. My soul speaks, music from within, a song for my kin. My soul speaks. Thank you. This poem is a story, it's my interpretation of our history. It's a story of you, my Sikh brothers and sisters, and the path we've walked. It's called Tiger Trees. He's a revolutionary and he's in love. She has long jet black hair, almond eyes, and smells like home. He's a modern day Achilles, t-shirt wearing warrior. He walks on broken glass barefoot. He eats books for breakfast. He sleeps little and is always prepared, like a Swiss Army knife alarm clock. He has an AK on his shoulder, a microphone in his pocket, stateless, saffron-shrouded Sikh sentinel. If it came down to it, he'd let his own sons die for the cause. And the girl he loves, well, he has her picture in his heart, and that will do. The words, "That's a bit harsh, bro," come to mind. He says, 5 generations ago, his grandfather's grandfathers were kings. But not the castle kind, more like giant tiger trees. They grew from the rivers, canopies roaring, waves crashing, hugging the world close. They were in love with the land. 5 rivers flowed like lightning from a storm cloud, more like oceans from their beards. The fire had always hated the tiger trees. Every time the fire burnt one down, 50 more would spring forth. They were magic. They could turn ordinary people into tiger trees to protect and love the land. The ancient king tiger trees wage a long war and finally finish the fire. The rivers became walls. He says 3 generations ago, his father saw 5 rivers break. The last great tiger tree fall, like 5 sisters separated, like dead bodies dissected, broken limbs disconnected. 5 rivers became 2. They shattered into 15 million drops of blood that became stars. Once more, the fire had come. Burning and burning and burning, the rivers drowned in flame. But some tiger trees remained. They gathered the broken bark and scooped up the scattered claws. The bark became pages, and the claws became pens, and they wrote down their dreams. Then the tiger trees became legend. And there were new kings, oh yes, the castle kind. They did not love the land, they loved fire. He says his father saw 2 rivers burn. The castle kings needed more slaves to build more castles. It began, like always, Amritsar, the immortal throne, where one of the ancient great tiger trees had planted 2 great flags and taken 2 of his own great claws and turned them into swords. That his grandfather's grandfather saw. His father saw the great flags burn. The great swords were lost. The immortal throne was blasted. The great library set on fire, and all the young trees were burnt down. The fire spread by night. 1,000,000 tons of burning rock and avalanche of stone turned villages into dust. And the people were made slaves. It was a quiet Holocaust. The people blamed the trees for growing too much, for loving as deep as the roots of the most ancient tiger tree. He says he found what the last great tiger tree had written. The more he read, the more he roared. He was becoming a tiger tree. He says his children will be free. He says his children will eat books for breakfast and walk barefoot on glass. He says just before the dawn you can hear the ancient tiger trees roar. Each night he grows taller. He says the 2 burnt rivers will again become oceans. And the 2 oceans will find their 3 sisters, and 5 rivers will be. He says his children are destined to be tiger trees.